Hello everyone. I wanted to welcome you to the webinar on the 2016 product roadmap. We're very excited today to share with you all of the input that you've given us the past quarter on the features and requirements you need and how that's shaped up into a plan of action for the forthcoming year. I just wanted to start out by giving a brief overview of the agenda and the topics that we're looking to cover today. So first off, we're going to spend a few minutes going over the features that have gone into the release that's been worked on by the core team over the past quarter, the Mifos X 15.12 release. And then we're going to give a high-level overview of the 2016 roadmap and some of the key themes and pieces we're going to hit. And then we're going to spend most of the meeting going over the detailed release plan for the Mifos X 16.03 release, and then looking at the subsequent quarters throughout 2016. And then we'll conclude today's meeting with some brief questions and answers to go over any feedback or questions that have arisen throughout the meeting. So first off, I want to start out by giving an update on the release and development that have happened this quarter. So we've moved to a feature release time cycle in that we've been continuously releasing the features as they've been updated. So you've seen that we've had a number of releases over the past couple months as new features have been updated. And we're going to then do a comprehensive overview of all the functionality that has been shipped at the beginning of January. But I wanted to touch on briefly what some of the major features that you'll be able to take advantage of now in the Mifos X platform. So first off, we've added surveys functionality in Mifos X, and at the core of this will be support for the Progress Out of Poverty Index, so this important social performance management framework. So the APIs have been shipped for that. The web interface will be available by the end of this month, and then in the next quarter we'll also have a mobile interface for that. You've also seen in the 15.10.1 release the loan module refactoring work. So this was contributed by Mifos, and it allows both the loan module refactoring work are some behind the scenes improvements that have gone into the product to help make the loan module perform better and be more extensible for partners. And then we've shipped the functionality around floating interest rate loans, so ability to tie interest rate to a base rate and then have a differential based on top of that, and that was shipped in November. And then we've had a couple of features this quarter around flexible repayment schedules. So we have variable installment loans, which will allow you to configure manually the structure of the loan installments, and that'll be shipping by the end of this month. And then Mifos led the work on the loan rescheduling and loan restructuring features that was shipped in early September. We also added support on the security side for being able to switch between HTTPS and OAuth 2 for authentication. And then with the release that came out today, we also shipped our APIs for clients to log in and authenticate themselves into the system. And this is a very important feature that will allow any range of self-service apps, be they mobile banking, online banking, to take place. So we're very happy to have that in the platform now. And then in October, we shipped the loan loss provisioning feature, which was an important feature that had been requested around internal control and better management of the portfolio at risk. So hopefully you've begun to test out any of these features as they've all been shipped and they're available now. But we are going to do a comprehensive demo and showcase of all this new functionality at one of our user meetups in January. So you can see the date below. And after today's webinar, we will also send out the link so you can register. And we look forward to having you join that so you can see all the great work that the core team has taken up this past quarter. So I'm going to spend a bit of time first off just going over some of the broad strokes of what we're going to focus on the 2016 roadmap, and then we'll take a detailed look at some of the release plans and key functionality that's going to go into the platform. So first off, I wanted to start with a high-level look at what the product development teams will be focusing on in 2016. And the first major piece of news here is some exciting news that not everyone on the call I think has heard of. So in 2016, we're going to be launching the third generation of the Mifos software called Mifos IO. And this is going to break down the Mifos X platform into an application framework for digital financial services. And it will have a microservices-oriented architecture in place with pluggable components so anyone can rapidly build new applications for digital financial services. And so Mifos X, which is our second generation software, will be a key product that sits on top of this new framework, and it will continue to serve its role as a full core banking platform delivered as a service. And so the Mifos X feature development will continue to be led by our core team based in India. And the core team is made up of Adi Raju, Nazir Shaikh, and Pramod Nutaki. And then the development of the new Mifos IO framework is going to be led by our Radar team, which is based in Germany. And this will be led by Marcus Geis, and he's supported by Merle Krantz. And so with Mifos X, the broad focus is still going to be horizontal scale as a core banking system that goes across all forms of financial inclusion. And so as you'll see in the roadmap later, in the first quarter, we're going to focus on adding better support for cooperatives, credit unions, and SACCOs, as well as improved mobile field operations and self-service. And then in the second quarter, we'll continue adding support for loan products and methodologies, along with some better internal control and business intelligence capabilities. And then moving towards the latter part of the year, we don't have a lot of specificity now, but we're going to add support for more delivery channels, continuing to improve the depth of managing the client, as well as adding some additional support for new methodologies. With Mifos IO, we want to spend a little bit of time today just introducing the vision for this new framework, but we are going to be scheduling a separate webinar to go over what's going to be covered and a lot of the exciting new features and functionalities that will be capable from here. But at its core, we want to ensure that with this new framework, you have better scale and better extensibility, and we'll begin to add new capabilities around account management, payments integration. And so we're going to have the first generally available release of Mifos IO at the end of Q2. And then in the latter part of the year, we'll begin to migrate Mifos X onto the new framework. And the goal is to, first off, have the first release of the framework with the general components there, begin to add additional connectors to other payment systems, and then continue to expand the framework such that others can build new applications, whether they be electronic currency applications, mobile wallets, integrating with telcos, integrating with mobile money. So we're very excited at the future that's in store between both Mifos X and Mifos IO. And so here's just a brief high-level overview of some of the components that will go into Mifos IO. So basically you can see that we're taking Mifos X, which is one complete platform delivered as a full product, and then breaking it down into various pluggable components such that if you want to build a lightweight application focused on one domain or one functional area, you don't need the whole platform in place. So think of Mifos IO as more of like a spring framework for digital financial services. And so you'll be able to pick and choose from all these different components, have high scalability, be able to do it in a lightweight manner, and build whatever application you'd like to. And so there will be a couple ways you can learn more about Mifos IO. We're going to be scheduling a webinar via GoToTraining for the latter part of January. Tentatively, the dates are January 21st right now at 1500 GMT. But then the best way to learn more about Mifos IO, if you're a developer or someone looking to build on the new framework, is to attend our upcoming annual Global Developers Summit. So we're calling it Mifos Tech Days, and this is going to be held in Amsterdam from March 9th to 11th. And so you've hopefully received some emails going over the format and structure of the event, and registration is now open. So please head over to techdays.mifos.org to take advantage of the early bird registration rates. And if you have any questions about the event, please send those through to our mailing list. Before we dive into any of the detail of the actual release plans and features we're going to be working on in 2016, I first wanted to pause for a moment and give a brief call to action. So as you've seen from the As you've seen from the slides before, we have a very small core team that's going to be working on features in the platform, and we have a broad variety of needs that come up from our global community. And for our team to make this roadmap a reality and the community to have access to all the new features they need, we're going to need the support of partners and volunteers across the community. So just first off, to set some groundwork, the core team's focus is really going to be on the domain-intensive, deep, highly complex, platform-level features that are shared across everyone. And then we're looking to the community to work on some of the lower-level user interface features, improvements to client management, and also building new modules and applications and features that are needed by their customers. So in this realm of having the core team focus on the domain-intensive areas and the community focus on more of the customer-facing smaller innovations, there are many ways in which the community can help, and we'll begin to emphasize this throughout the different release plans for the upcoming year, but wanted to give a brief overview of what these ways are in which you can contribute. So first off, on the input side, we need the community, be they users, be they partners, to share the requirements. And so as you recall, throughout this past quarter, we went through a pretty structured process of feedback into the roadmap, and we're going to continue to do that this quarter. So we need you to continue to share your specifications and share JIRA tickets on the features and requirements you need. And then also, in an important way, we need you to give feedback on the requirements that others have shared and help to clarify on some of the details of new features that are being requested. And then on the side of output, we need partners and volunteers alike to help by contributing code. So for partners, we want you to participate by taking any of the work you've built for your customers and sharing it back with the community. And then based on some of the open gaps we have in the roadmap that we'll present later today, we need partners to raise your hands, take on the effort to sharing some of these features that are needed by all back with the community. And then for volunteers, we want to do a better job of engaging you in helping to take up both small tickets as well as larger projects. So we have a wide range of small enhancements that we've tagged with the volunteer tag in our issue tracker, and we want to work with you all to get you contributing in that regard. And then we also have some longer term, bigger projects that are more nice to have features that we want to get volunteers working on. So as we look at the release plans for the upcoming year, just want to make sure you know that if we want to make this a reality, we really need the help of everyone across the community. So the core team needs the support of partners and volunteers to help give input on what's needed to be built, and then they actually need to get their hands dirty and help in building out these features. So with the release plans we're going to be looking at today, as you could expect, we're going to spend more time focusing on the 16.03 release, as this is the one that we have the most clarity and we have full detail around. And then we'll spend a bit of time on 16.06, and then we'll do a very high-level look at 16.09 and 16.12, as those release plans will change as we get more feedback from the community and also get more commitments from partners and volunteers. And before we look at each of the releases, I want to remind everyone of some of the core themes we break down the functionality into. And so since the launch of Mifos X, we've tried to look at the core functional areas in the platform across a few different themes. So the blue areas you're looking at right now are the core pillars of our roadmap, and then the green areas are the ilities, and then in the next slide you'll see a few of the functional areas around mobile and digital channels. So first off, the core pillars of our roadmap, the first one centers around the flexible management and support of financial services and products. So this is the new loan, savings, credit, payment products that are needed to run a financial institution. And then business management centers around providing complete business intelligence, internal control, and accounting functionalities needed to effectively run a financial institution. And then client management is at the center of everything in our platform, as we recognize you need to identify your client, understand their needs, manage the risk, know the impact you're having with them, and be able to respond to them rapidly with the services they want and need. And then the abilities really center around how others access both the platform and the product. So first off, we want a strong user experience in making sure the platform and product are both usable and accessible. We need the platform to be highly scalable and to perform well with great stability. And then key to our mission and key to enabling our ecosystem is having extensibilities to making it easier for partners and volunteers to extend the core platform as well as build on top of the platform. And then deployability centers around the ease of deploying the product for both an independent financial institution or a partner. So we'll continue to focus on the abilities as we add new functionalities throughout the year. And we certainly recognize that the entire industry as a whole is starting to go digital, and that's why we're going to be launching the next generation of Mifos as a brand new framework that has the lightweight capabilities to launch some of these applications, but we're still continuing to add these enhancements to Mifos X. So the first bucket looks at having the proper integrations and connections to other apps to power the adoption of mobile money, digital payments, and electronic currency systems, so you can help make your clients a formal part of the payments ecosystem. And then mobile delivery and enablement centers around providing the apps and tools to staff to go out into the field to interact directly with their clients, as well as to allow financial institutions to leverage new alternative channels like agents or business correspondent models to extend their reach even further. And then self-service channels focuses around removing the need for the brick and mortar infrastructure to reach the clients and allow them to interact directly with both their data and their transactions. And this can be done through mobile wallets, self-service apps, online banking, etc. So that provides a nice picture of how we are breaking up the functionalities across the various releases. We wanted to have some unifying themes and concepts to help ground you in what we're focusing on. So this is the high-level look at the 16.03 release plan. So as I mentioned before, the core team has moved towards releasing features on as a get-built basis. So we'll likely be doing that throughout this quarter, and then at the end of the quarter, we'll have a comprehensive wrap-up of everything that's been built, and then do a demo and showcase and make sure all the documentation is in place. And so as we look at the 16.03 release today, I'm going to spend some time looking at what the core team's going to be working on and what we're projecting as potential contributions from external contributors. And then I have a few outstanding questions around some of the key features the core team is going to be taking up. So we're going to go through what some of those outstanding questions are to allow you to give feedback in JIRA on what's needed there. And then we'll continue to do that for the other releases throughout the year. And so before we look at some of the enhancements that we're going to be working on, I just wanted to give a recap on the process we went through in building out the release plan for the year. So first off, Dana helped to lead the process on grooming the backlog through an ongoing triage process. So we had a number of feature enhancements, going back more than a year and a half. So I think we probably had close to perhaps 200 tickets in there. So both Dana and Marcus, led the efforts of grooming this backlog, helping us to confirm and prioritize these requests. And then we opened up these prioritized requests into a community voting period in which we got votes from the community and feedback on what they wanted to see. And then based on these votes and feedback and what we internally thought was the best vision for the product, we refined these needs with the partner council. And then based on the feedback and sign-off from the partner council, we've moved towards having this clear scope of work for what the core team is going to focus on. And so I'll focus on the core team contributions, and then we'll look at external contributors, and then we'll continue on. So the major theme, as we noted before, for the 16.03 release from the perspective of the core team centers around improving the support for financial cooperatives and credit unions and SACCOs. So there are a number of savings enhancements that have been requested that we're going to be working on. And I'll go into the details of these on the next slide. And then the biggest feature that we're going to work on, and it's been requested from, I can recall that we've been talking about having a shares and dividends module for the past 5 to 6 years. So we're going to finally add support for tracking shares of ownership and paying out dividends. And so we'll be going over the details of that on the next couple of slides. But I wanted to call out some of the contributions that our partners are committing to make and thank them for that, and then also emphasize that these contributions are still tentative, but our partners are looking to contribute these, and we want to bring on any other contributions partners might have as well. So on the financial services front, Mifos is going to take up work on being able to have percentage-based charges on charges income. So this is needed for calculating some of the taxes they need to withhold. And then we do have a number of enhancements we'd like to make to the guarantor module, and we have some volunteers lined up to take on that work. But if you're looking to find a project that you'd want to contribute on, that's one that we need some help on. And then for a couple of the customers that Conflux has been working with, they're going to be shipping some various enhancements related to both the collection sheet as well as fees. So there'll be support for recurring client fees, as right now we just have the support for capturing a client fee at a specific due date. And then there'll also be support for linking fees to meetings, and then there'll be a new fee type of before loan approval. And then at the collection sheet level, the work they'll be sharing back includes support for the bulk collection of savings accounts, as well as collecting fees from the collection sheet itself. And then we have some exciting new work in the business management front that's been led by Mifos as well as Conflux, and then we're going to have a volunteer helping to tie it all together. So we are going to have a basic like workflows wizard or workflows engine, which will be powered by the data tables. So you'll be able to configure data tables and attach these to the various state changes within Mifos X, and also specify that a client can't proceed from one state to the next without these data tables being captured. And then there'll also be some behind the scenes improvements to optimize how these perform, and then we'll have more field level dependencies between some of the various questions and components in the data tables. And then right now, Mifos has also raised their hand to commit some work around end of period processing. So there will be some functionality being worked on to allow the closing off of all your income and expense accounts into the equity accounts on the general ledger. And we have had feedback for more comprehensive end of period processing, but we will continue to explore the requirements there. But we will have this baseline functionality worked on by Mifos. And then Hadrian Labs has been working on providing a drag and drop reporting interface leveraging SACCO. So we're hoping that this will be ready by the first quarter. We're just working through some of the aspects of it, but this will give management a powerful way to create new reports on the fly without having to build a custom report. And then there's also some holiday handling components they would be taking on. Under the client management umbrella, we still are looking to source a few of the needs that have come up, and we have volunteers lined up for them. But once again, we can take any volunteers who'd like to work in these areas. So under the Know Your Customer requirements, we have some enhancements around capturing the expiration date of documents, and then also better linking these to some of the client workflows. And then as we look to extend the support of surveys and PPI in Mifos X, we do need a volunteer to help us integrate the remaining scorecards for the more than 50 countries that the PPI is available in. And then throughout the year, we want to continue to improve the user experience of the product. So there are some outstanding issues that we're going to be wrapping up. So we're going to wrap up the breadcrumb navigation throughout the application. We're going to ship Mifos X with some predefined roles, which will make it easy to configure out of the box the permissions you need for your staff. And then once we have those predefined roles in place, users will be able to better take advantage of some of the role-based dashboards that are available in Mifos X now, but aren't as accessible as they could be. And then Conflux is going to be taking on some scalability improvements for both batch jobs as well as interest recalculation and tranche loans. And so that was, a pretty lengthy list, and we do have some good commitments from the partners this quarter. So, we look to the community to help continue in, providing more requirements that they need, but also raising their hand to take up some of the open gaps that we have here. And so before I look at some of the details of the functional areas the core team is going to be working on, I want to give a high-level view of what's going to be happening on the mobile, digital, and self-service channels in Q1. So we have some good work happening in place between both the core team as well as external contributors. So from the core team perspective, as you've seen via the mailing list, we are going to be integrating with the Stellar protocol to enable better low-cost money transfers. And so that Stellar integration will be available this first quarter. And then we're looking at working with a couple financial institutions to help pilot that for domestic money transfer scenarios. And then the core team is also going to be working on the second phase of self-service APIs. So right now, there is a functionality to log in as a client, view accounts, make transfers between one's own accounts, and also repay loans. And so within the first quarter, we're going to add support for a client being able to actually create a new loan account. So having a self-service loan application, and then also being able to make transfers to other clients within the same financial institution. And then looking at what external contributors are going to be focused on, we've got a lot of work happening, and we're very excited to see all this work that's come up from partners and volunteers alike. So on the mobile financial services front, the Omexit, a partner out of Kenya, has been working closely with Vale SACCO, one of our users in Uganda, to provide integration with the Bionic APIs for mobile money integration in Uganda. And so this is something that will be shared with the community in the first quarter, and we're looking to have that also be the foundation of some mobile money integrations in other countries throughout East Africa. And then hopefully you've also seen the recent announcement we made to the mailing list about our participation in Outreachy this year. So we have several interns that are all going to be focused on Android-related products. So we have one intern, Nelly, from Kenya, who's going to be building in some additional functionalities that we're calling version 2 of our Android app. So allowing more capabilities to attach documents, open group accounts, open center accounts, create new clients with full details, all from the current Android app. And then Olia, an intern out of Ukraine, she's going to be first off, implementing material design for the Android app, so it'll have a lightweight, more modern usability feel to it. A number of the outstanding GIS tasks centering around, pinpointing the location of a client, or tracking the route of a field officer, or plotting a map to the residence of a client will all be wrapped up and added to the Android app. And then Olia is also going to be extending the offline data capture support that is only available in a small portion of the Android app. And then Nasim, our third outreach intern, she's going to be implementing the mobile UI for the surveys framework that we've shipped this quarter. And then she'll also be working on some enhancements to the community app. And then in terms of what the community will be providing regarding self-service channels, Missoni is tentatively going to be sharing an Android-based self-service app that some of their partners have worked on. And then we have a number of partners who have been working on USSD apps, and we're hoping that a version of these will be made accessible to the community in the first quarter. So there's a lot happening across our partners and volunteers on both the platform and the digital channels that we're excited to be able to bring together in the first quarter. So it is quite a comprehensive plan, and we're all going to be needing to have our heads down and working closely. But this is the tentative plan for 16.03 that the core team and the community will be working towards. And so now I wanted to dive back into some of those core features that the core team is going to take on in the first release and just help to give a more detailed look at what those functionalities will be, and then what are some of the outstanding questions we have. So on the savings front, we will be adding support for dormant savings account. And this will essentially allow 2 new statuses to be defined with configurable number of days corresponding to these statuses. So there will be both inactive and dormant accounts. And then when an account is inactive, you can still apply a fee to it. You can still have interest be posted without it becoming active. And then at the end of the dormancy period, there's a configurable setting to allow these, abandoned funds to be escheated to the proper general ledger account. So we think we have pretty good clarity around that ticket and don't have too many outstanding questions there. But if you have any feedback or requirements you'd like to add there, please locate the ticket in JIRA and then provide your comments there. And then we're also going to be adding support for a new type of charge on savings accounts. So being able to have a charge time type of on interest posting at a percentage level. And so there's more details on that on the ticket itself. And then one feature that has been requested for a while now is being able to have sliding interest rate bands, or as we like to call, interest rate charts. And so this will allow you to have different interest rates corresponding to the actual amount of the deposit. And we have two main questions there that we're still working out, and we appreciate the feedback in the comments on JIRA. And so first off is whether or not this will be applicable to the general savings products or just to term deposits. And right now the inclination is that it'll be applicable just for term and recurring deposits. And then the other outstanding question centers around whether or not the interest is calculated on the average balance across the period or daily balances during the period. And then the biggest feature that we'll be working on in 1603 is the shares and dividends module. And a big thank you to Dana, Binny, and then Robert and Gloria and others who have provided their inputs on the core pieces of functionality going into the shares module. But I do want to make sure everyone takes a look at the specification that's on the wiki and then provides any feedback that they have. But right now, we're looking at being able to support a new product type of shares accounts. This will be basically a deposit product that has no interest, and then it's going to be classified as an equity account based on some of the feedback we've gotten from users. And then with this new product in place, members will be able to have share accounts, and so they can apply for a new share account, and they can also purchase additional shares. And the purchase price of shares will be based on the number of shares and the value of the share itself. And then once a member has a share account in place, we want to be able to support the calculation and allocation of dividends. And so right now, we do have a number of outstanding questions related to how the total declared dividends that are available are calculated. And so we've suggested a number of workarounds to do this outside of Mifos X, since it typically requires numbers and stats from other systems. And so we're still determining if this will be something that's done inside or outside of Mifos X. And then we also are discussing whether or not the journal entry as the declared dividends get moved from retained earnings to dividends payable, whether or not this is manual or automated. And then the next piece of functionality will actually calculate the dividend for each shareholder based on the balance of shares they have in their account as of the date of record. And then finally, the dividend will be allocated to each shareholder. And so first off, the user will be able to review the calculated dividend and then approve and post it along with the corresponding payment types and journal entries that support this transaction. And so these are some pretty deep new features that are being worked on. So please, as the conversation bubble suggests, head over to JIRA, and we'll send out links to each of the specific tickets and provide any feedback you have. But these are the features that the core team is going to be working on. We're going to be refining the specifications by the beginning of the year, and then development will be starting in the first quarter. So it looks like we're still, moving along at a good pace. So I'm going to continue on with the roadmap and just remind people that if you have any questions, please continue to post them to the chat, and then we'll address them at the end of the session. So as I mentioned before, as we go further out in the roadmap for the rest of the year, we will have a bit less specificity, and we're going to continue to refine the scope of what the core team's working on based on ongoing voting processes through the community, and then based on the conversations we have with partners, we'll continue to refine and lock down the commitments from partners and external contributors. But right now, what you see listed in the core team area is based on the rounds of community voting we had earlier, and then looking at, what are some of the features that have been requested the most and which are, the most domain intensive and require the deep expertise and platform knowledge of the core team. And so on the financial services front, we are looking to add support for self-funded groups. So this might be self-help groups or savings groups where the loan funds are derived from a pool of funds actually collected through the members. So this will require some platform level changes, and we're looking to add these in the second quarter. There have been slab-based fees that have been requested, and this is utilized for insurance purposes. So we're looking to potentially work on that in this quarter. And then building off of some of the flexible loan schedules work, the core team is examining the taking up of credit or top-up loans. And then we did want to take on some of the business management features that have been requested. And so there have been requests for having support for recurring journal entries. And then we do want to add better support for allowing limit-based and data-driven authorization. So not having a full business rules engine, but having some basic business rules support. And then we're also looking at extending, what we've done around the dormant savings accounts to having just some general ability to flag accounts and freeze accounts for whatever purposes they need to be frozen for. And then just in terms of what the core team could be working on in the quarter, also looking to improve performance by taking on some of the batch job improvements that are needed. And then as we look at what the partners have committed to, these are still in flux, but these have been some of the commitments we've discussed with partners, and then based on the needs of the customers and the workload they have, they'll confirm whether or not they can work on these items. So the first item was a typo, so my apologies on that. But then Mifos, has raised their hand that they want to take up some work on agricultural loans, and so this will also be leveraging the flexible loan schedules work that's been happening this quarter. And then Mifos is also going to be taking on some more work around workflows. So first off, we'll be able to have specific workflows based on the type of client. So you could have a different workflow for an individual client versus the workflow for a small business loan. And then they're also looking to add support for different workflows per specific loan product. And then multi-factor authentication was one of the features that came up a lot in our survey and call for features. And we're discussing with some of our partners, interns, and volunteers to take up this work. And then throughout 2016, we did want to generally move towards having better CRM and customer relationship management features. So we are in talks with a volunteer to take up work on a complaints handling module, and we do need both requirements for that as well as potentially contributors who want to work towards that. And then we also want to begin to better leverage the social performance data we're capturing in Mifos X and have this visualized to external stakeholders. So you might recall we had a proof of concept of a client impact portal, which is really a dashboard looking at the financial and social metrics of clients. And so this is something that has come up as a need for a number of customers, but we would need to look to either a partner or volunteer to drive this forward. And then on the usability front, we want to try and get material design implemented so there is a better, consistent, and modern look and feel throughout the community app. And then we will be bringing on some other collection sheet enhancements that partners have worked on. And then we do recognize that as we add more functionalities to our loan and savings module, that there are a wide variety of terms and configurable parameters, and we want to implement both a product and account wizard-based view to allow ease of creating new products and new accounts. And then lastly, we've seen that there is a high need for enhancements to the data import tool, because that's been a key part of people's operations, and we're looking at volunteers to take up work on that. And so next I want to spend a little bit of time once again on the mobile, digital, and self-service channels. And so tentatively we're looking at having the core team work on some of the offline capabilities outside of the Android client. So there has been the need for having offline capabilities via the browser. And so we're going to try and collect requirements from the community on this and then discuss if this is a good fit for the core team to work on. And then in terms of external contributions, we want to continue to have some more reference mobile money integration. So we're looking at Kenya and Tanzania as potential targets. And then we want to stabilize the SMS bridge that we have in place. And then leveraging the expanded self-service channels, continue to add, first off, reference web application to enable an online banking interface, and then also have some other USSD apps that are available. But these commitments are still open, so we need partners and volunteers to raise their hands to help provide some of this work. So as we move towards the third quarter of 2016, part of the focus of the core team will begin some of the work to begin migrating Mifos X onto the new Mifos IO framework architecture. But we still will be, providing new functionalities on top of Mifos X. And so a lot of these, once again, will center around the business management and internal control fronts. But we do want to take up any enhancements there are related to shares and dividends. And then on the business management front, we did get a lot of feedback from users around having better tools for reconciliation with bank accounts. And then we also have the need for having a fixed asset register for more of these, physical and capital assets that a bank or financial institution has on their books. And then on the security and internal control front, being able to have, more granularity around maker-checker, and then also being able to disable user accounts based on, incorrect logins. And then we're hoping that a partner might be able to take up some of the work around a data warehouse, but that's something that we're recognizing as customers become larger, they need more powerful reporting capabilities. And then credit scoring was an area that came up quite often in the feedback, but we do need a lot more clarity around this. So that's something that we'll need to work with you, the community, on, and gathering more requirements throughout the rest of the year. And then on the extensibility front, we want to continue to have better capabilities around the API there, so partners can do more with both the APIs as well as connecting to other systems through our webhooks framework. And then the external contributions we're looking at right now, as we've noted before, will continue to be more up in the air, but we wanted to do some projected contributions here. So we're looking to participate in Google Summer of Code once again, but that's not a definitive commitment right now. But we have, spec'd out some potential modules and projects that Google Summer of Code interns would work on if we were to participate. And so the first one is a collateral management module. So we have this pretty well specified out, and this would allow for better tracking of the value of collateral and gold and other assets. And then on the business management front, we've had a partner that's worked on some of the multi-currency and cross-currency exchange support, and we're looking to integrate some of these capabilities in the general community releases. And then Mifos has a feature around being able to limit the number of loans by product type, so similar to our product mix that they might potentially take on. And then in the client management front, we have a nice-to-have project centering around activity management, so having a more activity-based and task-based view within Mifos X, along with notifications and alerts around these activities. And then we're looking to Conflux to provide an integration with a credit bureau that can be used as a reference point for other integrations. And then extending the theme of better usability, we're in talks with some volunteers to have more of a initial configuration wizard to help a user go through the standard parameters they configure at the start of the system. And so once again, we hope that we'll be able to participate in Google Summer of Code to take on some of these works, but in the event that we might not get accepted to that program, once again, we're looking at partners and volunteers to help make their commitment and pledge to take up some of this work. And so as we look at what's happening with the mobile, digital, and self-service channels in Q3, there will be a high level of overlap between what's actually happening on Mifos IO and then what's actually happening directly on Mifos X. So most of the continued mobile financial service integration will likely be on Mifos IO, and then it'll come onto Mifos X once Mifos X is on the new framework. So we're looking at supporting some of the most common international messaging standards and also having the connectors to other payment networks. But as we discuss more of the vision for Mifos IO, we'll provide more clarity around the timeline of how the integrations to the various mobile money and payment systems will shape up. And then on the mobile delivery front, we're in talks with a partner in the community about taking over the development of an agent banking application and adding that functionality. So hopefully that might be something we'll have integrated with Mifos X by the third quarter, and that will join our Android-based field operations app. And then one of our partners, San Jose Foundation, led by Terrence, is also working on a hybrid mobile app that will potentially be available to the community. And then on the self-service front, we'll continue to add additional client-facing APIs for functionalities that aren't available yet for clients, and then looking to work with Google Summer of Code interns to build off of our reference web app for online banking and self-service channels, and likewise around our USSD applications. And then, as you can see, as we get to the fourth quarter of 2016, it's a long ways out, and we don't have a lot of specificity there yet. But one of the areas that we got feedback on from the community was, the need for better support for tracking cash flows. So that's potentially a piece of work that could be taken up. And then we have a number of nice-to-have items that we'd like to drive through volunteers and partners. And then one of these is a smaller item, just being able to have auto logout of the platform. But then if we do participate in Google Summer of Code, looking to have an intern work on integration with a biometric system, having a module for insurance claims, and then also having system-wide notification and alerts. And then on the last bucket here, before we move to questions, we potentially might have a savings group app available by the end of the year. One of our partners, DreamStart Labs, is working on this right now and just exploring what the requirements are. And this would be an Android-based application, but we're still not clear on the actual timeline for that. And then we'd also look towards, on the self-service front, having some enhancements to our current, or the Android app that will be available in the community. So hopefully everybody has been able to follow along with most of what we've been going over right now. And so just to give a brief recap before we move into addressing the questions that have come up, and then also unmuting everyone to have any open questions, just wanted to emphasize again that we need the commitments of both partners and volunteers to help make the roadmap a reality. In 2016, we're also going to be launching Mifos IO, and we will be scheduling a webinar for that in late January. So that'll be an exciting new development in the community. And then also just one reminder that we've recorded this session, and so you can view it at your own time after we send out the link to the video, as well as the slide deck and the links to register for the upcoming meetings and provide feedback on the tickets needed in Jira. So with that, I'm going to close this portion of the meeting, and then I'm going to start to address some of the questions that have come up in the chat. So, and I'll start to, if you had a specific question, I'm going to unmute you so you can voice the question, and then we'll try and discuss all the questions that have come up. So the first question that I'm seeing came from Amos. So this centered around just, so Amos, I'm going to unmute you for a moment, but I'll begin to address the questions. And so first off, Amos's question was around being in the middle of a Mifos X deployment now and then upgrading to the new release next year easily. So with any upgrade from Mifos X to a new version of Mifos X, we have simple instructions on how to complete the upgrade, and basically you just need to drop in the new WAR file, and then the necessary updates to the database or whatever data changes that are needed will take place, and then we'll be providing more details on what the migration from Mifos X to the new framework architecture, but that'll also be straightforward, as Mifos X will simply be becoming, it'll still be the same code base you're using, but it will just leverage some of the underlying modules and components of the framework. So for users using Mifos X, they shouldn't notice anything different when they switch over to Mifos IO. It will perform better and be more lightweight, but there won't be any change in terms of using a new code base or using a new community app interface.
All right, thank you.
Sure. And then Amos also had just some comments and feedback around calculating the dividends, and then CRM. And regarding CRM, Amos, that is a good point you raise, and we don't want to build everything from scratch, so we're looking to integrate with the capabilities of other CRM systems, but we wanted to keep the scope of the functionality simple. So that's why first off, we wanted to have just the ability to track complaints and handle inquiries like that, and then we wanted to add more of the activity management to be able to follow up on the activities, like let's say in trying to collect an overdue loan. But we don't want to just dump a bunch of CRM functionalities, but be very selective about what's added so we ensure that it aligns with the needs of the community. And then Mike, thanks. So around the material design, we'll work with you and Gaurav to help make sure that gets into the platform, as I know you've done good work there, and I want to make sure the rest of the community can benefit from it. And then Amit had a comment around online bank transfers and if that scope will be available in Mifos X. And so right now, Amit, you should be able to utilize both APIs and webhooks to configure transfers that you need. But as we move towards the new framework, we'll have better transactions interoperability. So let's just take this offline, and we can discuss with Conflux and also the core team about what's needed for better online banking transfer support. And then thanks, Amos, for the suggestion on other payment standards tools. So we'll make sure we explore that as we're looking at the payment connectors, as we want to support the most widely adopted standards. And we appreciate your suggestion to share the cloud tool, so we'll make sure the team reviews that. And then Amos also had a question about store and forward capabilities. So we will be adding those capabilities on the Android client right now, and we're still refining what those use cases are. So that is an area where we could use community feedback. So for the Android application, what type of data would you need to download locally, and then what type of data would you need to be able to sync when you have an online connection? And so that's first off going to be covered in the Android app this quarter. And then we're exploring for the later in 2016 if we add additional functionalities there to do that on a browser. And then Caesar, you asked the question around the technology stack for Mifos IO. So it's a pretty similar technology stack, but we are going to more heavily utilize the Spring framework, so utilizing some of the native Spring framework for security components. And then we're also going to be, still utilizing MySQL, but also using a NoSQL database for some of the command processing. And then we'll send a link that has a diagram that outlines, what the core components are for Mifos IO. So it is a very similar stack, but we will be adding in some new components to have better scalability. And then Srinivas had some questions around the credit bureau integration and the data import tools. And so Srinivas, we'd like to explore with you what your needs and requirements are there, and then we can discuss with partners or volunteers what could be potentially taken up. But it won't be a contribution that the core team can do, but we will work to discuss it with a volunteer or partner based on having more clear requirements. And then John had a question about the mobile app and whether this would be client-facing. And so the current mobile apps we're working on are all still field officer facing. But the mobile app that Musoni has been working on that they are potentially going to be able to share with the community would be a client-facing application. But they're still in discussions with their partner on whether or not that code base can be open sourced and shared with the broader community. But we're hoping it will be. And then that would be an Android-based client-facing app to allow a client to log in and view their accounts and make transactions with their accounts. And then Srinivas, around the loan origination process, I know that comes up pretty often, so I think we'll need to set up a wiki page there and begin to capture the requirements around loan origination, as I know, some people like to do that in an external system, but we do need to add more capabilities of that within Mifos X, so let's make sure we have that as an action item to create a wiki page on loan origination and then begin to collect requirements all across the community and gather feedback as we do with any of the requirements that come up. And so we still have 3 minutes left, so if there are any more questions, you can type them in the chat, and I can try unmuting everyone, but I'm worried that might lead to a lot of background noise, so let me try it, and then I'll see how that works. Okay, yeah, I think I'm going to leave everyone muted for now. So if anybody has any additional questions, please type them into the chat, and we'll try and address them, but then we'll make sure as we send out follow-up emails that we have the relevant links and information and collect any additional information we need from you. Okay, well, it looks like we're going to be able to end on time, which is always good. So I want to thank everybody once more for joining us today on the webinar for the roadmap. I want to thank the members of our core development teams that have been working on Mifos X and the new framework architecture. And then also thank Dana and other members of the community who have helped to lead the roadmap planning process. And so we want to have a structured process throughout the rest of the year where we continue to gather feedback and then respond to requirements. And then the most important message and takeaway I want from this is to make sure that the community knows we need your support in terms of input on what needs to go into the platform, but even more importantly, we need support from partners and volunteers to take up work and help to support the platform, the community app, and the digital financial service channels. So thank you, everyone. We'll send out the relevant notes, and then make sure you mark the dates on your calendar for the upcoming webinars and user meetups, and then keep watching your inboxes as we do have some exciting news and announcements and communications we'll be sharing. So thank you, everyone. Have a good evening, afternoon, or day, wherever it may be for you.